is that President Cyril Ramaphosa is going to take the stand at the State Capture Commission for 4 days in April. What flavour popcorn do you like? Scores of witnesses at the Zondo inquiry have implicated the former President Jacob Zuma's administration in state capture. Ramaphosa was the deputy president at the time. Sanusha Naidu, the political analyst, she joins us now. Sanusha, good afternoon to you. I mean, this is a big moment. A sitting president under oath taking questions on live TV.
Good afternoon, Stephen, and the viewers. I mean, yeah, it's unprecedented. We've never seen this before in South Africa, and I think there's many unprecedented moments that we're having. But of course, with President Ramaphosa, it's going to be quite interesting because, you know, he was the deputy president at the time when most of the evidence that's being presented before the Zondo Commission is implicating the former president. Cyril Ramaphosa was the deputy president. There are going to be questions on that, but I think it's the way they've structured the evidence that he's going to present or how he's going to appear before the commission. So there'll be 4 days, but staggered out of 2 days each. So in other words, the first time he appears, he's going to be speaking as, I suspect, as the ANC kind of president, and then of course the second time will be as the state president. I may have got those two interconnectedly differently, but definitely he's going to be it's going to be the questions that's going to be asked, and it's going to be what he's going to say. And remember, he's going to be talking under oath.
I mean, there's so many different things. We could spend 4 days just you and I talking about questions that he has to answer. But the timing of this announcement, Sanusha, so it is tomorrow, right? The Constitutional Court hearing on whether former President Jacob Zuma is in contempt of court for not going to the Zondo Commission. There's a little bit of shade being thrown about today.
Well, you could see it that way, Stephen. The timing, the optics couldn't even be any more coincidental than what you are saying. The point being is that it's not just about the shade being thrown against to Zuma. It's also within the party, Ace Magashule. There's the other dimension to it. But I think what's important as well is that Ramaphosa had produced an affidavit saying that, you know, he's met the Guptas a few times, never significantly. I think the last time was in 2016 when they had to discuss them about their banks and their banking accounts and being closed and coming up with the idea of their role in. But I think it's going to be interesting for two reasons. One is his supporters are going to use it to say, look, the president, a sitting president, is willing to put himself before a state commission of inquiry into capture, and then say to the opponents and the detractors of Ramaphosa, well, now the gauntlet is to you. I think the detractors are going to say, well, yeah, let him have his time at the Zondo Commission, but let's see what comes out, because then we can use that to continually to peel against some of the issues that he's been kind of navigating and skirting. And I think we're going to see a lot more voices and a lot more coming out of opposition parties like the EFF, particularly around the CR17 question. Whether that's part of the mandate of the Zondo Commission, that's another issue, but definitely we're going to see a lot of comments and a lot of interesting statements being made, and very heated ones at the same time.
Isn't there a lot of risk for the president in two ways? I'm going to come to the second in a moment. But the first is, as you point out, he was deputy president. And I'm sure, I wasn't there, but I'm sure that people must have gone to him as deputy president, people within the ANC movement and people outside it, and said, look at this, this is corruption, do something. So isn't there a risk for him that he's going to be asked what he knew and when he knew it, and why he didn't do anything? I mean, there's some laws that also say you have to actually report corruption if you are informed about it. This could be a bit of a risky move for him in some way.
I completely agree. I think it's a risky move in terms of saying I knew, but I didn't know that much. I didn't know the extent in which it was such a deep rot in the state. I was aware of it, or I was told about it, but I couldn't do anything. I think the problem here is how much of insulation he can claim at the commission in terms of what he knew, whether he could act on it, and whether he had the ability to do so. I think that, again, the question is how much were you willing to put the broader context of the party and what in serving in an administration ahead of what the real caliber of governance and dealing with the democratic nature of and the Constitution in terms of what was his responsibility in addressing the situation. I think the other risk for him is that it opens him up to these very questions about his culpability within this whole process. And again, Will he come out untouched? Will he come out kind of saying, well, I tried to do the right thing? I think it's going to be a very, very difficult one for him, because you've got the court of public opinion, you've got the detractors, and of course you've got the optics and how that plays out.
I would suggest the other risk is actually, perhaps, Anusha, as leader of the ANC, and let me just explain what I mean. There's a risk and an opportunity here, perhaps. So the Zondo Commission, when the e-books, the e-history books are written about it, or the history e-books are written about the Zondo Commission, it's really all about governance under the ANC. Bosasa is around the ANC. The corruptions involved ANC cabinet ministers or people who were serving in ANC cabinets at the time. I mean, like it or not, none of the opposition parties are involved in this because they weren't in government, right? So on one level, this has actually been surely damaging for the ANC. So President Ramaphosa gets a chance to sort of go and defend the ANC at the Zondo Commission. But at another level, if it all goes wrong, it could damage the ANC further in an election year.
Yeah, I mean, I think to your 2 points about the opportunity and the risk, it's really the question of whether it becomes, the risk turns into an opportunity in terms of coming out, and whether or not it improves the reputation of the party, the confidence, the trust. At this point in time, I think the party is so beyond those. It's so individualistic and group thinking, and how different factions are playing out, that it's beyond those kinds of thought processes about what is the reputational risk for this party in an election year if it all goes pear-shaped for the president. At the same time, the history books, as you rightly point out, will talk about not just the president, although he will be the highest level of individual in the party who will appear before the Zondo Commission and have his name within the history books. But it's also others that have appeared before the Zondo Commission who have kind of tried to distance themselves, but also kind of claim that perhaps they were not completely aware of what was happening. So I think to a large extent, this could go either way. But I think right now we're sitting on the fence here, because at the end of the day, we're also dealing with a party that is in contestation with itself. And so how that plays out and whether they do actually lend themselves to the reputational risk outside of the party and what does this mean for them in the election year is going to be very difficult.
And of course, you've already mentioned the opposition parties, but I mean, what a moment for them. They're going to be providing running commentary whether we want to hear from them or not.
Absolutely. I think they're going to have their own channel, all of them. They're going to be constantly having their YouTube channels going on. You're going to have very, very diverse views about the president's testimony, from the DA to the EFF. But I also think the point is that there were 1 or 2 members of opposition parties that did serve in government in different portfolios. So again, that's something to discuss and debate another time. But again, for the EFF, I think it's just such an important, a golden moment in terms of the fact that they will use it in the way that they want to. And I think for the DA as well. And I think for other smaller political parties, it's where they will gain the traction by cottoning on to particular issues. So I think, yeah, I think the opposition parties are just probably rubbing their hands with glee, waiting